I'm Nick. I'm a young employee at Mitchell Motors, a major car manufacturer. I've loved cars since I was a kid, and after working hard to gain knowledge, I joined this company. My efforts were recognized. And now I'm part of the development team, leading a busy but fulfilling life. Today, after finishing a long meeting for a new product project and about to leave my seat, I was stopped by my manager, Tom. Nick, do you have a moment? Yes, Tom. How can I help you? Don't be so tense. It's not a big deal. You know the part we're using for the new product in the project you're on? The one we discussed in the meeting. Oh, that part. Is there something about it? Yeah, as mentioned in the meeting, we're planning to outsource it. I want you to take charge of selecting the contractor. What? Me? I couldn't help but raise my voice in surprise. Seeing me flustered, Tom smiled gently and patted my shoulder. Life is all about experiences. But isn't it too soon for me to handle such an important task? This outsourcing deal is worth $100 million. Can I really manage it? Don't worry. Here's a list of candidates. All of these companies are reliable and have excellent technology. Other employees will help with the negotiations and contract procedures. I want you to visit these companies and develop your eye for quality. Develop my eye. Yes, it's a big deal, but it's a necessary experience for your future. I trust you, so go with confidence. If you have any problems or doubts, you can always consult me. Encouraged by his smile, I left the meeting room, still feeling nervous. The list he gave me included companies we have had long relationships with, all trustworthy and technologically capable. If I choose from this list, there's little chance of failure. From that day, I spent a few days contacting the companies on the list and visiting them. Today, I'm visiting the last company on the list. Nick, we've been expecting you. Please come this way. A young female employee politely guided me to the reception room. Probably in her mid-20s. She respectfully handed me her business card. Nice to meet you. My name is Anna. I looked at the card from her. I thought she might be in sales, but she was actually in the technical department, which surprised me a little. Did you think it was unusual for a woman from the technical department to come out? I must have shown it on my face. She hit the nail on the head. I wondered if it was rude to be surprised by her gender. But it would be strange to lie and try to cover it up. I decided to be honest and nodded. Yes, I thought it was a bit unusual to see a woman in a technical role in this industry. I'm sorry if that was rude. It's fine. I hear that often and don't mind. Nick, can we discuss the details of the project? Of course. Please take a look at this material. I handed her the documents and briefly explained the project. As expected of the technical department. Her understanding was quick, her questions were specific and precise, and the conversation flowed smoothly, leaving me with a clear mind. After the meeting, I left her company feeling much better. Of all the companies I've visited, this one seemed the most promising. I thought about consulting Tom about it while glancing at my watch. It was just before noon. It was lunchtime. I decided to gather my thoughts over lunch before heading back to the office. I walked a bit and spotted a small diner. I walked in and found that more than half of the seats were already occupied. I sat at a table for two, placed my bag in the storage area, and looked over the lunch menu. After some deliberation, I ordered the daily special. While casually sipping water and glancing around, I noticed that the diner had become completely full. A few people were waiting near the entrance, and the staff were asking customers if they could share tables. A waiter came to me with the same request, and having no reason to refuse, I agreed. Soon, the waiter brought my table mate, and our eyes met, causing me to gasp in surprise. Oh! Oh! We recognized each other and exclaimed in unison. It was Anna sitting across from me. Looking slightly embarrassed, Anna greeted me and took the seat in front of me. What a coincidence, she said. Yes, it's lunchtime, so I thought I'd have a meal before heading back to the office. That's right. This place is great, affordable, generous portions, and delicious. I highly recommend it. Anna, clearly a regular, ordered without even looking at the menu, then placed her phone on the table. Her phone had a faded blue minivan keychain, which caught my eye. Isn't that our company's car? Yes. I've loved this model since I was a kid. My dad bought me this keychain when I was in elementary school, and it's very special to me. So I still keep it. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke, revealing her genuine love for cars. My late father worked in your company's development department. He was involved in developing this car and often talked to me about it, which sparked my interest in the automotive industry. That's interesting. My dad also worked on that minivan project, so they might have known each other. Wow, that would be quite a connection. Both you and your dad work for the same company. That's amazing. Well, maybe. But you're amazing too. Honestly, isn't it tough being a woman in this industry's technical field? Yes, it can be challenging. People often say because you're a woman or even though you're a woman, and it gets tiring. But it makes me want to prove them wrong even more. She said this cheerfully. Her demeanor was admirable, and I found it impressive. Eventually, I decided to proceed with contracting Anna's company as our top choice. All the companies had great technology and reliable representatives, but her company stood out the most. Her genuine passion for cars made me feel that we could create something great together. As we moved towards finalizing the contract, I frequently visited her company to discuss specifications and conditions. Over these discussions, Anna and I became quite friendly. After our meetings, we often ended up at the same diner, chatting about various topics. These days, when everything seemed to be going smoothly, preparing for an internal meeting the next day, I stopped by the factory and noticed I was missing some documents related to the contract with Anna's company. Apparently, I had forgotten to collect them from her company. It was completely my fault. Feeling a bit guilty, I contacted Anna to set up an appointment. She kindly agreed, saying, "It might take a little while to prepare. So you might have to wait, but it's no problem." If I went back to headquarters first, it would be past her company's closing time. Feeling slightly rude but needing the documents, I headed to her company in my work clothes. Anna was still preparing the documents. A young female clerk, possibly a new employee, led me to the usual reception room. Just as I reached for the iced coffee she brought, a hand from the side snatched it away. "It's cold." Before I could react, someone splashed the coffee on me. I had no idea what was happening. Confused, I looked up to see a middle-aged man with a sneer, holding the empty cup. That dirty work uniform might be a bit cleaner now. Be grateful. What? Whether you're a subcontractor or a lowly worker, who gave you permission to enter the reception room? The representative from Mitchell Motors will be here soon, so get out. Get out now, you slow-witted loser. The middle-aged man twisted his face into a crooked smile, grabbed my arm, and forcibly yanked me to my feet, causing me to wince in pain. Just then, the reception room door burst open. "Brandon! What are you doing?" "Huh? I'm just teaching this lowly worker a lesson." "Get lost, you useless woman." "Brandon, what are you saying?" "This person is the representative from Mitchell Motors. Let go of him immediately." "There's no way. A guy in a dirty work uniform with a face like a lowly worker can't possibly be an employee of a prestigious company." "Anna, have you lost your mind?" The manager, Brandon, roughly let go of my arm. Then he mockingly tapped his temple with his index finger, as if to imply she was crazy. I was stunned, but seeing him ridicule Anna made me furious. "The one who's crazy is you. Can't you read the company name on this uniform?" I pointed to the chest area of my work uniform, stained with coffee. There, of course, was the name Mitchell Motors. The color drained from Brandon's previously arrogant face. Granted, it was urgent, so I came in this outfit, which was my mistake, but throwing coffee on someone is absurd. "Maybe you're the one who's lost it." I mimicked his earlier gesture, tapping my temple with my finger. I knew stooping to his level wasn't ideal, but I couldn't help responding. Brandon's face turned beet red with anger. "Ooh." He looked like he wanted to yell at me, but barely held back. I looked at him with cold disdain. "You told me to leave, so I'm going. Goodbye." I left the reception room and headed towards the entrance. Unfortunately, the sky was overcast and it was raining heavily. I didn't have an umbrella, and I didn't want to take the bus in my coffee-stained clothes. Just as I was about to call a taxi, Nick, I heard someone calling my name. I turned to see Anna running towards me with an umbrella and some documents. She reached me, out of breath, and handed me the umbrella, looking worried. Nick, are you okay? Did you get burned? No, thankfully it was iced coffee. Did you come all the way here just to bring me an umbrella? Well, that, and I wanted to give you these documents. But I guess you don't need them anymore, after what Brandon did. Thank you. But about the contract, it's complicated. It's a big deal between companies, and I can't make a decision here and now. Don't hold back, Nick. If the contract is cancelled, it serves him right. She laughed as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. I was surprised by this unexpected reaction from Anna, whom I always thought of as serious. The rain is heavy, and you're soaked. If you don't mind, I can give you a ride. No, that's too much. And you're still on the clock, right? Don't worry about it. I plan to submit my resignation tomorrow. What? Resignation? You're quitting? I've had enough of Brandon. Today was the final straw. If you don't mind, can I vent to you on the way? Sure. Feeling somewhat overwhelmed by her determination, I nodded. We walked to the parking lot, and she unlocked a white car. Please, get in. Thank you. I hesitantly got into her car. Anna, sitting in the driver's seat, asked, "Is it okay if I take you to your company, Nick?" I nodded in response. She started the engine, set the destination on the GPS, and began driving. The guy who threw the coffee, Brandon, is a power-harassing, incompetent nepotism hire. Nepotism? Yeah, he's the nephew of our company's president, Mr. Thompson. He always flaunts that connection, bosses everyone around, and yells at subordinates without reason, yet he's terrible at his job. Wow, I can't believe there's still someone like that. Does the upper management know and ignore it? I'm not sure. Our company is pretty old-fashioned and doesn't take compliance seriously. There's no internal reporting system for employees to directly talk to upper management without going through their bosses. Most managers just try to stay on Brandon's good side, so nothing gets reported. He's basically unchecked. She let out a heavy sigh. There was a veteran employee who fought to report his misdeeds to upper management. But Brandon crushed him by deliberately causing a loss and blaming it on the veteran, forcing him to resign. What? He caused a loss just to get rid of an employee he didn't like? Yes, it's unbelievable. But he doesn't care about the company as long as he can harass those he dislikes. It's truly unbelievable that the company lets this go on. It really is. Today, he barged in trying to steal the credit for the contract with your company, without knowing anything about the project. Despite the fact that the whole company has been talking about this contract, he didn't know about it until today. I've been submitting reports and discussing it in meetings, but he must have ignored the reports and zoned out during the meetings. He has no interest in the job. And then he throws coffee on you. That's quite something. The power of assumptions, right? He probably thought the representative of a big company like yours must be an elite in a sharp suit. So he couldn't believe that someone in work clothes could be the representative, even though the company's name was on the uniform. That's Brandon for you. Many employees have left because of him. Whether they were forced out like the veteran or left because they couldn't stand him anymore. Those who stayed are either trying to curry favor with him or just avoiding trouble. I love this industry, so I endured his tyranny. But I've reached my limit. I see. I didn't realize there was such a problematic person in your company. I was tasked with assessing people and companies. But I still have a lot to learn. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's impossible to know the internal dynamics from an outsider's perspective. Only a detective or an officer might be able to figure that out. She sighed deeply, probably one of many sighs she's let out. She's likely been struggling with this for a long time. I wondered if there was something I could do for her. There is one thing. Though it might bring me down to Brandon's level, which I wanted to avoid if possible. But desperate times call for desperate measures. After a moment of thought, I decided to speak up. If you had a way to get back at Brandon, would you take it? Anna looked at me with a blank expression. She might have wondered why I suddenly brought this up. After a brief pause, she nodded. If there's a way, I'd like to see him face consequences. Someone like him ruins the environment for making good products. I don't want to waste the efforts of my colleagues and predecessors who fought against him. But Nick, what's your plan? It's simple. We'll fight fire with fire. It's a bit childish, but since he started it, I think it's justified. She looked puzzled, but I smiled reassuringly. After she dropped me off at my company, I headed straight to a certain room. As I walked, the employees I passed seemed surprised by my appearance and the odd air about me. But I knocked on the door of a specific room without paying any attention to their reactions. A few days later, under the pretext of a business meeting, I called Anna to our company's conference room. As I led the way and knocked on the conference room door, I could sense Anna gasp behind me. Mr. Mitchell? Inside the meeting room was Mr. Mitchell, our company president. Anna, being a car enthusiast, must have recognized him. She stood there, stunned. You're Anna, right? My son has told me a lot about you. Your son? She seemed confused, trying to remember if she knew anyone with the last name Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell looked at me and smiled. The man standing next to you. Wait, really? She looked at me. And I nodded. Really? Yes, really. I heard your father worked at the same company, but I had no idea you were his son. But your last name is different. She looked puzzled, glancing between Mr. Mitchell and me. I use my mother's maiden name, Anderson, at work to keep my position as the president's son under wraps. My real name is Nick Mitchell. Only a few executives and some employees know about it. I was born into a privileged family, with parents who, despite their busy schedules, showered me with love. I love cars and have always admired my father, who works hard for the company. I worked hard to follow in his footsteps. However, being in a perfect environment often led to unwarranted jealousy and envy. When I did well on exams or entrance tests, people would accuse me of using my parents' influence. The same went for sports and the arts. Even compliments like "your parents are so accomplished, so of course, you'd turn out great too" didn't bring me any joy. Friends would jokingly call me rich boy, but it stung. In high school, my first girlfriend used me to brag, saying, "My boyfriend is the president's son." Being the president's only son was a huge burden for me, and that's why I wanted to hide my identity and prove myself on my own while I was young. This guy here is stubborn. He insisted on not using any connections, took our company's entrance exam on his own, and joined the development team by his merit. Though I did ask Tom from the development department to give him tasks outside his main duties to broaden his experience. Sending him to handle the contract with your company was part of that. I told him to develop his ability to evaluate other companies and people. I never expected him to come back with coffee spilled on him. That was truly unacceptable behavior from our employee. I deeply apologize. It's not you who need to apologize. It needs to come from Brandon himself. Yes, you're right. Anna nodded with a conflicted expression, likely thinking that Brandon would never apologize. We're thinking of giving him a bit of a scare. A scare? Yes. If he shows remorse and apologizes, that would be ideal. But from what I've heard, he doesn't seem the type. So we'll go directly to the main person, President, Mr. Thompson. My son tells me that many talented employees have left because of Brandon's tyranny. Your company is reputable and skilled, and we'd hate to lose that. To help your company improve, we'll use the contract as leverage and tell them. We can't trust a company that ignores compliance issues. He paused and smiled kindly. A look I recognized from home, not from his role as the president. Also, Anna, your father was a valued employee of mine. He often talked about you. I can't stand by while his precious daughter is treated this way. Let me help. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I appreciate your support. The meeting was set for a week later, in the same reception room at Anna's company, after business hours. Seeing Brandon's dismayed face upon seeing me and the confused look on Mr. Thompson's face was somewhat amusing. Anna, attending under the pretense of being the contract manager, looked tense. "Hello, Brandon. Good to see you again so soon." "Hello, Brandon. My son mentioned you took care of him recently." We both turned to Brandon and greeted him with cheerful smiles. He looked slightly puzzled to be greeted by both of us. "My son, you say?" "I don't quite follow." "Yes, it's only been a few days." "My son, who rudely showed up in your reception room in his work clothes, received your attention. You even went out of your way to pour coffee on him to clean up his dirty uniform." At his words, Brandon finally realized who I was. His confused face turned bright red, and he glared at me with a hostile expression. "His son? You? What's with that attitude towards the president and his son? What did you do to him the other day?" I have no idea." "I was there," Anna interjected firmly. She, who had been silent until then, spoke up in a firm voice. Brandon glared at her as if to say, "Don't say anything unnecessary," but Anna, resolute in her decision to resign if necessary, didn't care. Nick was waiting in the reception room while I prepared documents. Brandon barged in, yelling, "Your dirty work uniform looks a bit cleaner now. Be grateful." When I arrived, Nick was drenched in coffee, and Brandon was shouting at him. "Is this true? It's a misunderstanding. No, she's right." He grabbed my arm and tried to throw me out, saying this wasn't a place for a subcontractor or lowly worker like me. "Your company certainly has impressive employee training," I said, cutting off Brandon's attempt at making an excuse and forcing him into silence. Mr. Thompson turned pale. "What have you done? Apologize now. I didn't realize he was a client." "That's no excuse." Mr. Thompson forced him to apologize. It seemed Mr. Thompson had some sense of propriety. I admired Brandon's audacity to still try to defy me in this situation. Seeing this as my cue, I spoke up. "In regards to the coffee incident, an apology would suffice. The stain was cleaned, and it's not a reason to terminate the contract." "However, Brandon, you mentioned you didn't realize I was a client, right? So what? That implies it would be acceptable to treat your own company's employees or subcontractors that way." "Mr. Thompson, haven't you noticed an increase in resignations from Brandon's department lately? Given his behavior, it's easy to imagine what goes on under his leadership. Personally, I wouldn't want to work under someone like that. We've only heard brief accounts, so we're not making any assumptions. But I believe a good company is built by good employees. An employee who mistreats others is a cancer. In today's world, you never know where information might leak from. If it does, it could cause significant damage to the company. We've had a long relationship with your company and don't want to lose that. I strongly recommend conducting an internal investigation." "You're right. This is very concerning. I had no idea. I will investigate internally, and if what you said is true, there will be severe consequences." "What? You're going to believe an outsider over your own nephew? Listen, this isn't school. Acting like a bully at your age is disgraceful. The investigation will determine the truth, but until then, you're on house arrest." Mr. Thompson spoke with disappointment. Brandon's defense was correct. The words of an outsider alone wouldn't serve as proof. However, ironically, his own attitude was the most damning evidence. The investigation reached out not only to current employees but also to those who had resigned. The results, as expected, were quite revealing. 6 months passed. Anna and I had been busy with work and hadn't seen each other in a while, so we planned to meet for dinner today. Of course, the dinner spot was our usual diner. As I looked over the menu, which now featured some new items, I heard someone call my name, Nick, and I looked up. "Anna, it's been a while, you look great." "Really? Thanks. I'm enjoying my work a lot, thanks to you and your father." "I'm glad to hear that. We kept in touch via email and phone, but I was worried about you. By the way, what happened to Brandon?" We had grown even closer, frequently exchanging personal messages. We both still love cars and remain dedicated to our work, maintaining a relationship that feels like comrades in arms. Even after learning that I'm the son of a major company's president, she treats me the same. These days, I find my relationship with her to be very comforting. I haven't told you the whole story. Brandon was transferred to the factory. Initially, they considered firing him. But they decided it was safer to keep him where Mr. Thompson could keep an eye on him. Is it safe to keep him in the company? There's a foreman at the factory, an old friend of Mr. Thompson. If anything happens, Mr. Thompson will hear about it right away. Brandon can't bully anyone there. The foreman is strict and intimidating, and Brandon can't stand up to strong people. I see. That's one way to handle it. It's probably the best way to straighten him out. Exactly. Those who supported his misconduct were also punished. But things are improving. Everyone is motivated to make top quality products again. One day, I'll make something that will impress you, so be prepared. She smiled proudly, looking radiant and beautiful. Life is unpredictable. Anna, who once considered quitting, now shines with enthusiasm. And the man who caused so much trouble faced his consequences. Life can change for better or worse, depending on our decisions and actions. It's time for me to take a leap too. With a sense of determination, I took out a pair of movie tickets from my bag.
When I heard about fateful encounters, I used to think it was something like love at first sight. But in reality, it's not that romantic. In fact, there are cases where you might have a fateful encounter without even realizing it. Like me. My name is Kyle. Just an ordinary office worker, but summer is a different story. I'm a huge fan of the sea, and when summer comes, I head to the beach, making me a true beachgoer. I love the sea so much that I go swimming with my friends every week. What? You might ask, why not just swim in a pool? The sea has its own allure. White sandy beaches, scorching sunlight, and the wind on the waves. The sea offers experiences you just can't get in a pool, making it a seasonal pleasure. That's why I go all out only in the summer. As an adult, you gain the means to do what you want, to a certain extent. I've always loved the sea since I was a student, dreaming of buying a surfboard or riding a jet ski. I swore to myself that I'd enjoy the sea to the fullest once I became an adult. I even had such ambitions. Why was I so passionate about the sea? Well, embarrassing as it is to admit, I was bad at studying and wanted to excel at least in something. So I threw myself into swimming. The community pool was affordable, and as long as I said I was going there to practice swimming, my parents didn't fuss. Thanks to that, I became popular during swimming classes. That's why swimming was so enjoyable, and the sea, with its waves, offers a different environment every day. There's never a dull moment because you can always try new situations. So, here I am, off to swim with my friends today. Unfortunately, as an office worker, I only get weekends off. The beach I frequent is large and popular, drawing crowds and bustling with activity. Today, there were various people, including families with children and groups of young women. Of course, groups of guys like us, and some miscreants trying to pick up girls. After all, if you come to the beach, you should enjoy the sea, but I suppose everyone has their own way of enjoying it. It would be odd to fuss over it. Sure, I've thought about bringing a girlfriend to the beach someday. But sadly, I don't have a girlfriend, and none of my past girlfriends have accompanied me to the beach. They had various reasons, like not wanting to get tanned or not owning a swimsuit. So, my ideal partner would be someone who enjoys the beach with me, but I haven't had much luck finding such a person. It would be great if I could meet someone who loves the sea at the beach, but that would seem too much like I'm just trying to pick someone up, and I'm genuinely here to enjoy the sea. In other words, I don't have time for flirting. So, I was just about to enjoy myself, just when. Help. Just after I got into the sea. I suddenly heard a scream. I thought someone was drowning, but that wasn't the case. I saw something floating by my side. Was that a woman's swimsuit? Looking towards where the swimsuit came from, I saw a woman trying hard to cover herself with her arms while swimming, but failing to do so properly and revealing too much. "Excuse me, that's mine," she said, but I thought to myself, come on, at least try to help her or cover her up. Even if there are no acquaintances around, there are other women. But I immediately swam to retrieve the swimsuit. The swimsuit had unfortunately drifted a bit far away. It would be difficult for the woman to swim like this, let alone swim without a swimsuit at all. Since there were many women around and no one seemed adept at swimming, I instinctively went to get it. I quickly grabbed the orange striped swimsuit and swam back to the woman. Once I got close enough, I turned my face away and just handed her the swimsuit. I couldn't very well look directly at her. "Thank you so much." The woman took the swimsuit from me and hurriedly put it on. Perhaps not wanting to change right there, she skillfully changed under the water, showing only her face, which seemed to limit the number of onlookers. Finally, everything was covered up, and I no longer had to worry about where to look. We decided to leave the water for a while. The woman had been a bit out to sea, chasing after her swimsuit, so I pulled her towards the shore. She seemed a bit tired from the shock of losing her swimsuit. It would be terrible if she drowned while trying to swim in that state. "Thank you so much," she said once we were on land, deeply grateful. She stared at my face for a while, and I found myself tilting my head in confusion. I thought something might be on my face, but when the woman hurriedly apologized, saying, "I'm sorry," I decided not to worry about it. Actually, this woman was quite beautiful, and I was pleased to be looked at. I'd like to thank you." "Oh, no, you don't have to thank me for something like that. Please let me thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you." She insisted on thanking me, so I figured, well, if it leads to a meal with a woman, that's fine, and we exchanged contact information before parting ways for the day. However, I had forgotten to ask for her name at that time. I regretted not talking to women much, but when I asked for her name over messages, she said it was Anderson. I was looking forward to dining with her, and then, a week later, at lunch, I went to have lunch with Ms. Anderson. The lunch here is famous for its reviews, and Ms. Anderson had made the reservation. I thought it was unnecessary to go this far, but for a woman, having her swimsuit swept away is a huge ordeal, and she might have been harassed by some unsavory characters, so that was probably her way of saying thank you. When I arrived at the meeting place, there was an incredibly beautiful woman. Even in a swimsuit, she had a nice figure and a feminine shape, I thought, but her casually cute style in jeans and a lace blouse was something else. And with those charming round glasses and her soft bob hairstyle, I must admit, I was quite taken by her innocent-looking face. "Hello, Kyle. Thank you for today. I'm sorry for insisting on this." No, it's fine." I became a bit embarrassed and looked away. To exchange contact information with such a cute girl, even if it was due to an incident, I couldn't be happier. Then she said with a laugh, "Kyle, you still look away when you're embarrassed, just like before." "What? A habit from the past." Have we met before, Ms. Anderson?" "We've met before, not for the first time. Summer Anderson. Does that ring a bell?" Summer Anderson. Hearing that name, I definitely remembered. She was my high school classmate. Though in my memory, Summer Anderson was very serious, quiet, and quite plain. She always followed the school rules, served as a class rep, and her grades were always at the top. She was the classic glasses girl vibe. At least, she's nothing like the lovely and beautiful Ms. Anderson standing before me now. but the Summer Anderson I know is her, and her alone. So that means... Could it be? You're Summer from Lynx High. Yeah, that's right. Did you finally realize? What? I let out an incredible scream. That's how surprised I was. They say women can change a lot with makeup, but this was almost like she had undergone plastic surgery. The change was so drastic. Well, in reality, she hadn't had surgery but had dyed her hair a much lighter color, switched to cute, round glasses, and completely changed her style of dress. Wow, you look so surprised. Well, of course, I'm surprised. Are you really that Summer? Yes, I am. The Summer who used to lend her notes to Kyle when he slept in class and let him copy her homework. Summer laughed amusingly, but her smile still retained a hint of her past self. After picking up her swimsuit, she must have been staring at my face to check if I was someone she knew. Kyle, you were always good at swimming. Once we settled into the restaurant and caught our breath, we started updating each other on our lives. It almost felt like a mini reunion. I hadn't really attended reunions, so seeing Summer after so many years felt like putting gratitude aside and just enjoying each other's company. It felt nice, almost like a return to the past. I wasn't very bright back then. Summer, feeling sorry for me, used to teach me at a diner. Remembering that, Summer teased, if there had been a swimming class, you would have definitely outperformed me. And you would have been counted from the bottom in swimming class. Well, I can swim averagely well, but I wanted to talk to you about that. Summer started to speak hesitantly, looking down. Apparently, she's planning to go to the beach with a friend next month, who is married and bringing her child along. I think it'll be fine since we'll be in the shallow end with floaties, and the child is in elementary school, but you know, after my swimsuit incident, I couldn't help but worry. What if it had been a child who got swept away? Summer felt she might not be able to help if something happened to the child. Honestly, accidents at sea are common. Even with floaties, one can be swept away, and if taken by the waves, even adults might not make it back safely. Summer's concerns were valid. So, I was wondering if you could teach me how to swim better. Me. You go to the beach often, right? I thought you'd be reliable. She looked up at me tentatively, and I felt a flutter in my heart. Teaching such a cute woman to swim, is that okay? I thought, but there was nothing inappropriate about it. This was, indeed, training to prevent accidents. I convinced myself to agree to her request. The following week, Summer and I headed to the beach. Today, she wore a red polka dot swimsuit, giving off a different vibe from before. The orange striped swimsuit from before. It turns out she bought it on the spot because she forgot her own. That day, I actually forgot my swimsuit and bought one at the beach shop, but it didn't fit right, and that happened. There's no way that's happening today, she said, her face turning red as she headed into the ocean, and I chased after her. We could have gone to a pool, but the sea, with its waves, offers a different environment, and getting used to it seemed better, which turned out to be the right choice. Summer, can you try a little harder? I can't, it's too hard. Indeed, Summer could swim to some extent, but it was all self-taught, and her flutter kick was particularly slow. I asked if she could speed up her kick, but she was already struggling. For now, if you can manage the crawl, you'll be able to swim farther, and it's good to learn the breaststroke in the sea since it's less tiring. Shall we keep practicing? Please, I'd appreciate it. I took Summer's hand and kept her practicing the flutter kick and observed her swimming form. It felt like a swimming class for adults, earnestly practicing swimming, which was kind of amusing. Of course, we practiced in shallow water, and if the waves got even slightly higher, we'd return to shore. Safety first was our motto during practice, and as a result, she was able to master breathing while doing the crawl by the end of the day. However, swimming isn't something you can improve at overnight. Can we do this again next week? After Summer said this, we started practicing swimming almost every week. But since going to the sea every time was challenging, we practiced in the sea on weekend and in a pool after work on weekdays. Thanks to our intensive training, Summer became reasonably good at swimming. She'd be able to handle things if something happened to a child now. Indeed, her beach outing with friends was a huge success, and she even got compliments on her swimming skills, which she happily relayed to me. Thank you so much, Kyle. I know I've been a hassle, so let me treat you to a meal again. She seemed really happy when she said that. Teaching her for a month was indeed worth it. So here we are, going out for a meal again, but this time, it's dinner. Summer had apparently reserved a nice restaurant. You didn't have to go to all this trouble. It's fine. Teaching was hard work, and I want to thank you for your company. Summer smiled at me with her exceptionally cute makeup and fluffy curled hair. Today, she dressed up even more stylishly than usual, and I've been feeling nervous all day. But it's sad that I don't have an excuse to go to the sea with you anymore. Eating and drinking. As I said that in high spirits, Summer replied with a laugh, "You really love the sea, don't you?" I knew Summer was serious and wouldn't be swayed by such a frivolous invitation, but being brushed off was still a bit disappointing. And yet, she asked, "Do you have a girlfriend, Kyle?" No, I don't have one right now." I see. Then, would it be okay if I applied for the position? What? I was momentarily speechless, not quite understanding what she had just said. There was a brief silence, and Summer fidgeted nervously. Wait, so, you mean, you want to be my girlfriend? Yes, that's what I mean. Since when? How long have you felt this way? I mean, I'm a guy. Of course, I've thought about having a cute woman like Summer as my girlfriend. But Summer always seemed so serious, even while practicing swimming, and I didn't think she saw me in a romantic way. But then, if you ask when, since high school, she said, sharing her feelings from back then. In high school, Summer had a crush on me. I was the life of the class and always the center of attention. Though my grades were poor and I often slept for classes, I gave my all to swimming. It seems she admired me for that. Back then, I was plain and lacked confidence in myself. You always had people around you. I was envious, but you seemed to shine so brightly. Her willingness to teach me and share her notes was her way of seeking any connection with me. But Summer struggled to express her feelings, and I never noticed her affection. Lacking the courage to confess, Summer graduated without ever revealing her feelings. I regretted not confessing. I thought I would change my image in college and exchange contacts with you at a reunion, but you never attended, so we never met. Sorry about that. I could only respond with a wry smile to Summer's words. She might have seen me as popular, but in reality, many of my high school friendships were superficial, and I didn't have many close friends. In fact, I found more in common with people I met in college, which is what I never felt compelled to attend high school reunions. I never thought I'd see you again, especially not at the beach. It felt like fate, so I kind of forced our connection to continue. She kept insisting on expressing her gratitude as a way to exchange contact information with me. I did think she could have just asked normally, but she said she didn't want it to seem like a pickup line. Well, I can understand her feelings. I've always liked you, Kyle, so please, let me be your girlfriend. Summer, her face flushed red, confessed to me. She was so adorable that there was no way I could refuse. Well, even if she wasn't cute, I wouldn't have wanted to refuse anyway. It made me really happy to know she had kept thinking about me all this time. Thank you, Summer. I was actually hoping you could be my girlfriend too. Really? Yeah, As I smiled, Summer jumped up with joy, exclaiming, "Yes." It felt like her long-awaited love had finally been reciprocated. Things moved quickly for us after that. Our first date was, of course, at the beach. This time, instead of swimming practice, we enjoyed marine sports together. Like surfing. We visited different beaches on each date, and sometimes we even spent the night at hotels with ocean views. The fireworks seen from the hotel were a beautiful sight and a great memory. Well, the fireworks in my memories are beautiful, but their beauty remains unchanged over the years. Daddy, the fireworks are so pretty. Hey, don't get too excited. Several years later, we get married, and we're blessed with a daughter. Today, we've brought our daughter to the hotel where we can see fireworks, just like on our dates. My daughter might not remember, but we've been coming to this hotel since Summer and I were dating, after we got married, and even during her pregnancy. After all, it's the hotel near the beach where we reunited. It's a place full of memories for us, and that's why we've decided to create many more memories together by coming here every summer. Yeah, it's beautiful. As I said this, I looked at my daughter and Summer, who was trying to keep our energetic little one in check. This scene of my life's greatest love, surrounded by my family, is surely more beautiful than any fireworks or anything else in the world. It may not sound very romantic to say that this precious moment was sparked by a swimsuit being swept away. But accidents happen to everyone, and sometimes those accidents can change your life. What's up, Kyle? Just thinking about how beautiful it is. When Summer saw me grinning, she gave me a curious look. Responding to her, she teased, "I wonder what you're looking at," with a laugh. I hope to continue these carefree conversations, building a happy family life. With those thoughts in mind, I watched the sea and fireworks with the two of them. Why on earth is someone like you, with poo education and no skills, attending our wedding? Just breathing the same air as you makes me feel like I'm losing brain cells. I was invited to the wedding ceremony of Michael, who is my manager, and attended with Sarah, my newlywed wife. However, his bride, sitting next to Michael, started belittling me on a mic in her hand. Michael turned pale and desperately tried to stop his bride, sitting next to him, but to no avail. To make matters worse, his bride exposed all the harassment Michael had subjected me to in the past, saying, "What about you? You've been bad-mouthing him too." In this uncontrollable situation, someone suddenly stood up and glared fiercely at Michael and his bride. "My name is James. To be honest, I don't have any academic qualifications. I joined a company right after graduating from middle school. People often ask why I didn't go to high school or college, but I could only say it was due to family circumstances. If possible, I too would have liked to go to high school and even college. But my family situation didn't allow for that. Though my parents wanted me to attend college, I respectfully declined. I have two younger brothers, Charlie and Daniel, and at that time, they had just started kindergarten and elementary school. I was confident I could manage on my own, but I didn't want my brothers to go through such hardships. So, I decided to start working right after middle school to save up for their college tuition. I was introduced to my current company through school, and it's almost been 10 years since I joined. In the beginning, being a middle school graduate, I was mostly assigned menial tasks, but as my tenure increased, I was entrusted with various responsibilities. By my 5th year, I was working with almost the same conditions as college graduates. After working for 10 years, I could smoothly handle almost all tasks in the company. Not only did my job quality improve, but I also gained confidence. Yet, I never settled for just that and tirelessly pursued my efforts with greed every day. Having been looked down upon for only completing middle school, I never wanted to go through that experience again. nor did I wish to put myself in such an environment. My efforts were eventually recognized by those around me, and I managed to build good relationships. "Hey, James, you're doing great. Thank you. This is all thanks to the seniors like you who patiently taught me the ropes when I was still new here. Come on, saying that won't get you anything." While I was working at my desk, a senior colleague, Tom, casually spoke to me. He held 2 cups of coffee, placing one on my desk with a smile. "Wow, thank you. It's not much." He smiled again and returned to his desk. Then, Emily, a junior colleague, sitting next to me, called out to me, "James, sorry but my software stopped working." Emily came to me with a tearful face, showing me the screen. Indeed, the software had frozen and the screen had gone white. Upon asking Emily for details, it seemed that this issue arose whenever attempting to open documents sent by a client. The software installed on our company computers is always up to date. So, it's unusual for there to be issues with opening files, but after considering various factors, including the possibility that her computer might not have the necessary specifications, I couldn't manage to open the document on their device. In the end, I had to take over the task. "James, sorry for causing you trouble." "It's okay, we're here to help each other," I replied with a smile, and Emily seemed relieved and smiled back. Taking over Emily's task, I handed my work to her instead. We supported each other like this, keeping a positive atmosphere in the office. Looking back, I can only agree if someone were to say that I was the one who disrupted the atmosphere. "James, can you work overtime today?" Oh. It was 20 minutes before the end of the day. Michael, the manager, said he needed help with some urgent work. However, I had an important matter today that required me to leave on time. "I'm sorry, I can't make it today due to personal reasons. However, I'm available to help tomorrow." At my response, Michael furrowed his brow. "It has to be today." "Then, perhaps you could ask another employee for help, as I really can't miss my appointment today." I apologized to Michael repeatedly, and as soon as the end-of-day bell rang, I left the office. Missing today's appointment could seriously affect my life. I understand that taking on work is crucial for building trust within the company, but when it comes down to weighing it against my future, I prioritize my own life. However, I would come to know that my decision was a mistake. The next day arrived. "Hey, good morning, poorly educated James." "Excuse me." As I arrived at work as usual, I was greeted sarcastically by Michael, who had arrived earlier. I was surprised because nobody had used the term in reference to me since I first joined the company. And Michael was normal until yesterday, so what happened? "The meeting with the client this afternoon has been rescheduled to start at 5 p.m. "Oh, really? Well, I see." I wondered if I had missed any communication from the client as I replied to Michael. Michael said it in his usual tone of voice, so I decided to think that I must have misheard his insult. However, the incident would occur at the time of the meeting. I was preparing to connect remotely with the client in conference room 1. But as time passed, the meeting didn't start. After a 30-minute wait, feeling something was amiss, I immediately contacted the client for confirmation. "Oh, is this James? I believe we had a meeting scheduled for today. Has something happened?" "That's what we'd like to ask you. Weren't you the ones who missed this afternoon's meeting? We'll have to reconsider this deal from scratch now." "Wait, what?" The tone of the client's representative was unexpectedly stern, and I was shocked. Moreover, they confirmed that the meeting was still scheduled for the afternoon, without any changes. The one who informed me about the meeting time change was Michael. I immediately left the conference room and went to Michael. "Michael." Even though I raised my voice, Michael continued to ignore me as if he hadn't heard. "Michael, did you lie to me about the change of the meeting time?" When I banged on Michael's desk and confronted him, he responded with, "Excuse me, what are you talking about?" The argument went nowhere, and I gave up on blaming Michael. I should have confirmed with the client myself when I first heard about the meeting time change. Now, with the deal canceled, the responsibility weighs heavily on me. I need to gradually regain trust. But Michael's actions, which could be seen as harassment, was not limited to just that day. "Man, you're still not done with this work. You're so slow. Don't get cocky just because you've been working in here a while despite being poorly educated." Michael constantly made derogatory comments towards me. He would offload his work onto me and then berate me if it wasn't finished immediately. Maybe I had become complacent about my position due to the positive environment around me, despite being poorly educated. I reminded myself that I could be fired at any moment and became even more dedicated to my work. Many would be inconvenienced if I didn't work hard. I later visited a client I had inadvertently stood up for the meeting, bringing a box of sweets to apologize. The person in charge then mentioned that they had been upset at the time but agreed to continue our business relationship. Relieved, I was able to focus even more on my work. "James, you've been really putting your all into work lately." Yes, it hit me that I still have so much to learn. As I began to focus more on my work, those around me also started putting in more effort. It seems they felt encouraged seeing me work hard. Thanks to everyone's hard work, the company's overall performance began to improve. However, it seemed Michael was displeased with this situation, continuing with his self-centered work style as before. As a result, he ended up being the only one lagging behind in performance, which further soured his mood. Time passed, and I endured daily harassment from Michael while continuing to work. Finally, my efforts were rewarded. "James, your promotion has been decided." At the morning meeting, Mr. Thompson, the company president, personally announced my promotion. The people in the office congratulated me with applause. However, Michael was the only one who seemed displeased, glaring at me as if to express his discontent. I had been eagerly awaiting this promotion. "Well, it's been decided. Congratulations." "Thank you." When I told Sarah, whom I live with, about my promotion, she was delighted as if it were her own achievement. I had shared everything with her, including my troubles with Michael and all the good and bad things at work. It's no exaggeration to say that I was able to keep going until today because of her. And I had made up my mind. Once my promotion was decided, I planned to convey something important to her. And so, I ended up getting married to the woman I had been dating for a long time. That day, we were out looking at wedding venues together. I'm excited about previewing the venue. What kind do you like, James? As long as you're happy with it, anywhere is fine by me. After all, the bride is the star of the wedding. James, you're really sweet. She was smiling the whole time. Today, not only were we viewing venues, but she was also scheduled to try on dresses, making it an entirely enjoyable experience for her. In the dressing room filled with various gowns, she felt like a princess and was very excited. I decided to wait outside on a sofa, telling her to take her time without worrying about the clock. As I took a seat on the sofa with a small sigh, I heard a familiar voice calling out to me. "Is that you, James?" "Oh, Michael." Judging by Michael's neat attire, it seemed he was also here to scout a wedding venue. A woman, presumably Michael's girlfriend, stood beside him. When our eyes met, I gave a light greeting, but she quickly looked away. "What are you doing here?" "I came with my girlfriend. She's in the fitting room right now." "Even a loser like you can get married, huh?" "Education has nothing to do with marriage, right?" Michael would insult me regardless of the place. I didn't want to argue in public, so I didn't respond strongly, but Michael's girlfriend, having heard our exchange, suddenly burst into laughter. "Well, so, you're the infamous guy with poor education, the incompetent one I've heard so much about from him. Always dragging Michael down, aren't you? I hear it all the time, how you're making everyone's workload heavier because of your mistakes." Yeah, that's him. Taking advantage of his girlfriend joining in, Michael ramped up his insults. Moreover, what Michael was telling her was completely false, which made me even feel a bit sorry for her. Hearing nothing but complaints about me from Michael must be stressful for her. As I was thinking of this, Michael's girlfriend was called away by the staff for her dress fitting, and she left. At the same moment, Sarah returned. "James, sorry to keep you waiting. Oh, someone you know?" "Yeah, from work." As I was about to introduce Sarah to Michael, he caught a glimpse of her and his eyes widened in shock. "Michael, is this your girlfriend?" Upon seeing Sarah, Michael's complexion visibly worsened. This incident led to a sudden halt in his harassment towards me. Although my colleagues and I found it odd, we were just relieved that work could proceed smoothly without any disturbances. However, Michael's behavior became strange afterward. Not only did the harassment stop, but he also started going out of his way to bring me coffee and even offered help whenever I seemed stuck with my work. Despite my refusals, insisting that it wasn't appropriate for a manager to do a subordinate's work, Michael began taking tasks from me to do himself. With the extra time on my hands, I was able to deliver higher quality work than before. This also led to an overall increase in work efficiency within the company, which was a win-win situation for me. Soon after, Sarah and I held our wedding ceremony. We invited colleagues from the company, including Michael. At her parents' request, we planned a grand wedding ceremony. With more guests than we could possibly greet, both she and I experienced a wedding filled with immense joy. Half a year after our wedding, Michael was planning his own and sent out invitations to the company employees. I asked if my wife could also attend, and Michael, sweating profusely, eagerly agreed. I wonder why Michael starts to panic whenever I mention Sarah. While Sarah and I were chatting in the corridor before the reception started, the bride walked past us, right by our side. To be more precise, she was going to walk past us. Upon seeing me, the bride stopped and turned to face us. "Are you the one from back then?" Despite being in her wedding dress, the bride approached us and scrutinized both me and my wife's faces. "Uh-oh, you're already married, right? Too bad you can turn back now." "What? Do you know your husband is poorly educated and incompetent at work?" "Well, that look on your face says you didn't know. Sorry for you. Could you please stop?" Seeing my wife uncomfortable, I intervened, but the bride just sneered and said, "Oh, sorry," before heading to the dressing room. What was that all about? "Sorry for making you feel uncomfortable." "No problem, but James, are you all right?" "Me? Why?" "You looked a bit upset." "I'm fine." I had shared everything with Sarah. In fact, she knew everything about me before we even started dating, including my educational background and job situation. Therefore, the bride's revelations had no effect on our bond. As the reception began, all guests gathered in the venue. Michael and the bride made their grand entrance to applause. However, the bride looked down at me with a triumphant smirk as soon as our eyes met. I tried to ignore it, but throughout the various entertainments, the bride kept watching me closely. When it was time for the bride and groom's speech, the bride eagerly grabbed the mic, pointed at me, and addressed the guests. "Why on earth is someone like you, with poor education and no skills, attending our wedding? Just sharing the same air with you makes me feel like I'm losing brain cells." The atmosphere in the venue froze at the bride's words. Among the guests were the bride's parents and friends, but there were more of Michael's contacts. Moreover, the majority were colleagues from work. It was highly inappropriate for the wife of a manager to make such statements in front of professional acquaintances. Michael looked horrified and tried desperately to stop her, but the bride continued her tirade unabated. Does everyone know? Despite being incompetent and constantly dragging us down, he clings to his job, pretending nothing's wrong, just like a pest. Hey, stop it. Why should I? I'm just repeating what you told me. You even said you didn't want someone like him at our wedding. Why did you even invite him? Well, that's... Michael seemed at a loss for words in the face of the bride's onslaught. Sarah, colleagues at the same table, and I were all taken aback by the bride's audacity. Unabated, the bride's focus shifted from me to Sarah. You really drew the short straw, didn't you? Too bad you can't turn back now. James, is she okay? My wife nudged my arm and whispered. I just shrugged and shook my head. As the bride continued unabated, Michael's face grew increasingly pale. This was far from the joyous expression one would expect from a groom on his wedding day. Although my colleagues and I were used to being bad-mouthed and looked down upon in the office, there was someone among us who couldn't contain his anger on our behalf. With a clatter, Mr. Thompson, who was sitting nearby, stood up. Michael, who were you directing such insults at? What exactly is going on here? Mr. Thompson. Michael is barely hanging on after having incited the wrath of President Thompson. How could you do such a thing to someone who's going to be the next president? Mr. Thompson, those words were not mine, and your soon-to-be wife is saying all this. It can only be assumed you're the one who fed her such notions. Well, that's... Unexpectedly, Mr. Thompson announced my upcoming role as the next president, leaving me and Sarah exchanging bewildered glances. She chuckled amusedly. Indeed, my wife is the daughter of Mr. Thompson, making her the president's daughter. Mr. Thompson, of course, has known me since I joined the company and is aware of my educational background. He has always valued me purely based on my achievements and abilities. Michael stopped harassing me the moment he saw Sarah because he quickly recognized she was the president's daughter. It meant that Michael wasn't foolish enough to overlook the significance of the president's daughter visiting the venue with me. Despite Michael's profuse apologies and his tuxedo, President Thompson's anger seemed to have reached its peak, and it appeared he wasn't willing to listen. Working while harboring such negative feelings towards others already marks you as incompetent. And on top of that, spreading slander makes you an unwanted person in our workforce. To everyone's astonishment, Michael was fired on the spot during his own wedding. Adding insult to injury, the bride, through the mic, scornfully said to Michael, now jobless. Am I marrying to the unemployed guy? No way. Goodbye. Despite being the cause of the commotion, Michael's girlfriend dismissively sighed and left the venue, ignoring her own role in the uproar. The atmosphere left behind for us was undoubtedly the worst. The venue staff, unsure of how to proceed, let the wedding music play on as planned, its notes echoing emptily through the hall. Since then, it seems Michael has been holed up at home. Understandably so, as he was not only fired but also left by the bride during the wedding, leading to the collapse of his marriage. Feeling somewhat sorry for him and recognizing his abilities, I plan to call him back once I've established myself as a competent president and gained recognition. To achieve this, I continue to work diligently, facing each day's challenges with earnest dedication.